Scientists analyze cameras used to capture the Cottingley fairies of the UK. I'm going to tell you about what fairies, how they originated actually. They could be demoted angels and what they believed from antiquity. But these pictures, in 1917, two young girls claimed to have photographed real-life fairies in a small village in England. Elsie Wright and Frances Griffiths, two young cousins who would often play next to a stream at the bottom of their garden, repeatedly claimed that they had seen fairies there. And to prove it, Elsie borrowed her father's camera, and the girls set about capturing some photographs. To everyone's surprise, the pair had managed to produce a set of very convincing, for the time, images showing what appeared to be actual fairies, often with one of the girls sitting beside them. The images were so convincing, in fact, that they quickly went public and became headline news. Many believed the fairies to be real, including author and spiritualist Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who included the photos in a magazine article he had written. The mystery of the Cottingley fairies would go on to endure for over 60 years, until finally, in 1983, the two cousins admitted that the photographs had been faked using cutout illustrations from a book. But both, however, remained adamant that they had generally seen fairies at the bottom of the garden, and now, more than 100 years after the photographs were taken, scientists have concluded a new analysis of the cameras that the girls had used to take them. The research involved using brand new state-of-the-art CT scanners capable of imaging detail down to just 7 microns, the equivalent of the width of a strand of spider silk. Despite the high level of detail, however, nothing unusual could be found. Of course, we did not find any fairies, but I think we did find a little bit of magic in that these scanners show how we can now look inside objects without disturbing them and see a level of detail that is unsurpassed, said Professor Andrew Wilson of the University of Bradford. Through scanning these objects, we can show the inner workings of how analog photography works and the materials which go into making a camera. It's really exciting to be able to see new details inside our objects using the cutting-edge facilities next door to us at the University of Bradford. So this is from Mail Online on Unexplained Mysteries. But the origins of modern fairies, they don't derive from a single origin. The term is a conflation of disparate elements of folk belief sources influenced by literature and speculation. In folklore of Ireland, the mythic Aes Sid, or people of the fairy hills, have come to modern meaning somewhat inclusive. Fairies, the Scandinavian elves, also served as an influence. Folklorists and mythologists have variously depicted fairies as the unworthy dead, the children of Eve, a kind of demon, a species independent of humans, and an older race of humans and fallen angels. The folklorist or mythological elements combine Celtic, Germanic, and Greco-Roman elements. Folklorists have suggested that fairies arose from various earlier beliefs which lost currency with the advent of Christianity. These disparate explanations are not necessarily incompatible, as fairies may be traced to multiple sources. Demoted angels. The Christian tenet held that fairies were a class of demoted angels. One story describes a group of angels revolting, and God ordered the gates of heaven shut. Those still in heaven remained angels, those in hell became demons, and those caught in between became fairies. Others wrote that some angels, not being godly enough, yet not evil enough for hell, were thrown out of heaven, and this concept may explain the tradition of paying a tained or tithe to hell. As fallen angels, although not quite devils, they could be viewed as subjects of Satan. King James I, in his dissertation Demonologue, stated the term fairies referred to illustrious spirits, demonic entities, that prophesied to, consorted with, and transported individuals they served in medieval times. A witch or sorcerer who had a pact with a familiar spirit might receive these services. In England's theosophist circles of the 19th century, a belief in the angelic nature of fairies was reported. Entities referred to as devas were used to guide many processes of nature, such as the evolution of organisms, growth of plants, etc., many of which resided inside the sun, supposedly being solar angels. The more earthbound devas included nature spirits, elementals, and fairies, which were described as appearing in the form of colored flames, roughly the size of a human. Demoted pagan deities. At one time, it was thought that fairies were ritually worshipped as deities such as nymphs and tree spirits, and with the burgeoning predominance of the Christian Church, reverence for these deities carried on, but in a dwindling state of perceived power. Many depreciated deities of older folklore and myth were repurposed as fairies in Victorian fiction. You could see the works, for example, of W.B. Yeats, for example. Fairies as demons. A recorded Christian belief in the 17th century cast all fairies as demons. This perspective grew more popular with the rise of Puritanism among the Reformed Church of England. The hobgoblin, once a friendly household spirit, became classed as a wicked goblin, and dealing with fairies was considered a form of witchcraft and punished as such. In William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Oberon, king of the fairies, states that neither he nor his court fear the church bells, which the author and Christian apologist C.S. Lewis cast as a politic disassociation from fairies, although Lewis makes it clear that he himself does not consider fairies to be demons in his chapter on the topic, The Long Livers, from the Discarded Image. In an era of intellectual and religious upheaval, some Victorian reappraisals of mythology cast deities in general as metaphors for natural events, which was later refuted by other authors. Spirits of the dead. One belief held that the fairies were spirits of the dead. This derived from many factors common in various folklore and myths, same or similar tales of both ghosts and fairies. The Irish Sidhe, origin of their term for fairies, were ancient burial mounds, deemed dangerous to eat food in fairyland and Hades. The dead and fairies depicted as living underground. Diane Purkis observed an equating of fairies with the untimely death who left unfinished lives. One tale recounted a man caught by the fairies who found that whenever he looked steadily at a fairy, it appeared as a dead neighbor of his. And this theory was among the more common traditions related, although many informants also expressed doubts. And this is on Wikipedia. There's more there for you to read. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.